Alebo toho démona chytí, skočí mu na chrbát, natlačí mu prsty hlboko do očných jamiek, natrepe mu do pisku reťaz hrubu ako dlaň, z celej sily zaťahne a druhým koncom mu šľahne po vajciach.
A lot of writers try to give you a lot of their opinions and preach or whatever. As I said, this mentor said two types come out, preachers, storytellers. Be a storyteller. And so you want to show how people evolve and grow. The Musk book is based much more on observation than almost any of my books because he opened up in a way that was breathtaking to me. That any biographer up close, meaning 5 feet away at all times, access. And because of that, I try to get out of the way of the story. It's not about me. I try to just say, okay, here's what happened.
Veľmi správne. Je ťažké neobľúbiť si človeka, ktorý robí svoju prácu na úrovni a prináša hodnotu. Toto je najcennejší skill biografa. Povedať príbeh tak, ako sa stal a úsudok nechať na čitateľovi.
It certainly is true that a lot of really driven people are driven because they're harnessing the demons of their childhood. And for Elon, it's especially true because he had both a violent and difficult childhood and a very psychologically problematic father. He's got those demons dancing around in his head. And by harnessing them, it's part of the reason that he does riskier, more adventurous, wilder things than maybe I would ever do. For example, when Elon got bullied on the playground and one day was pushed down some concrete steps and had his face pummeled so badly that Kimball said I couldn't really recognize him, and he was in the hospital for almost a week. But when he came home, Elon had to stand in front of his father, and his father berated him for more than an hour and said he was stupid and took the side of the person who had beaten him.
Pri takom type detstva sa zväčša stane jedna z troch vecí. Z človeka bude uzavreté štenia, obeť, jeden z najsmutnejších pohľadov na svete, ak si chlap. Prípadne bude opakovať vzory násilia, ktoré zažil, alebo toho démona chytí, skočí mu na chrbát, natlačí mu prsty hlboko do očných jamiek, natrepe mu do pisku reťaz hrubu ako dlaň, z celej sily zaťahne a druhým koncom mu šľahne po vajciach.
And it's really painful to read, but also really damn inspiring.
And he realized that if he was getting beaten up, it might hurt him, but he would just punch the person in the nose as hard as possible. So that sense of always punching back has also been ingrained in Elon. He'll even talk to you about the demons, about Diablo dancing in his head. I mean, he gets it. He's self-aware. So I think coming out of the childhood, there were just many facets, maybe even many personalities, the engineering mode, the silly mode, the charismatic mode, the visionary mode, but also the demon and dark mode. And he does have an explosive sense of humor, as you know. And certainly there is the silly and giddy mode.
Hey, babe.
Yep.
What's up? Can't get enough of y'all that, baby.
I'm going to clip that out. Anytime somebody messages me about it,
If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come right out and tell me so. If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come right out and tell me so.
And so you take the faults of Musk, for example, which includes a craziness that can be endearing, but also a craziness that's just like effing crazy, as well as this drive and demon mode. I don't know that you can take that strand out of the fabric and the fabric remains whole.
Náklad múdrosti. Človek je balík. Ak sa ti nepáči nejaká časť, alebo si neprešiel IQ testom a dodnes veríš médiám, predaj akcie.
Now, one of the things that Claire Boucher, known as Grimes, says is you don't want to be around him when he's in demon mode. It's really frightening. She said, but she added, but demon mode is what gets shit done. We grow up with fewer demons, but we grow up with fewer drives. And so I always respect those who are in the arena. But I've never shot off a rocket that might someday get to Mars. I've never moved us into the era of electric vehicles. I've never stayed up all night on the factory floor. I don't have quite those, either the drives or the addiction to risk. I mean, Elon's addicted to risk. He's addicted to adventure. That people like Elon Musk get stuff done, and people like me write about the Elon Musks. Elon Musk is cut to be an executive in highly intense situations, so much so that when things get less intense, when they actually are making enough cars and rockets are going up and landing, he thinks of something else so he can surge and have more intensity. He's addicted to intensity. And that's his superpower, which is a lot greater than the superpower of being a good observer. It's an empathy towards humanity more than the empathy towards the 3 or 4 humans who might be sitting in the conference room with you. Empathy for these great goals of humanity. Musk, as you said, is driven by mission more than any person I've ever seen. And it's not only mission, it's like cosmic missions, meaning he's got 3 really big missions. One is to make humans a spacefaring civilization, make us multiplanetary, or get us to Mars. Number 2 is to bring us into the era of sustainable energy, to bring us into the era of electric vehicles and solar roofs and battery packs. And third is to make sure that artificial intelligence is safe and is aligned with human values. Probably the most deeply ingrained thing in him is his mission. He joked at one point to me about how much he loved reading comics as a kid. And he said, all the people in the comic books, they're trying to save the world, but they're wearing their underpants on the outside and they look ridiculous. And then he paused and said, but they are trying to save the world. And whether it's Starlink in Ukraine or Starship going to Mars or trying to get a global new Tesla, I think he's got this epic sense of the role he's going to play in helping humanity on big things. And like the characters in the comic books, it's sometimes ridiculous, but it also is sometimes true. And he can visualize a material science. But I could give you 500 of those, where in any given day, he's visualizing the physics of an engineering or manufacturing problem. He cares not just about the design of the product, but visualizing the manufacturing and of the product, the machine that makes the machine. He makes its own batteries. And I think that end-to-end control is part of his personality. I mean, but it's also what allows Tesla to be innovative. Well, he starts with the first principles. And the first principles of physics involve things like, well, humans drive with only visual input. They don't have radar. They don't have LiDAR. They don't have sonar. And so there is no reason in the laws of physics that make it so that vision only won't be successful in creating self-driving.
Elon said Twitter needs a fire-breathing dragon.
Parag wasn't the person who was going to take Twitter to a new level. And then by the time he gets to Vancouver, where Grimes meets him, they stay up all night playing Elden Ring. He was doing a TED Talk. And then at 5:30, he finishes playing the Elden Ring and sends out that, "I've made an offer." He has an algorithm that we mentioned earlier that begins with question every requirement. What's up to is delete, delete, delete. Delete every part. And then a corollary to that is if you don't end up adding back 20% of what you deleted, then you didn't delete enough in the first round because you were too timid. One of the weird things is watching him think incredibly long term. One of the meetings every week early on when I was watching him was Mars Colonizer. And we did through a 2-hour meeting about what would the governance structure be on Mars? What would people wear? How would the robots work? Mm-hmm. And would there be democracy or should there be a different form of governance? And I'm sitting there saying, what are they doing? What are they talking about? I mean, they're trying to build rocket ships and everything else. They are worrying about the governance structure of Mars 50, 100 years from now.
Stop. Keď sklapnem, vypočuješ si myšlienku autora, ktorý napísal biografiu Steva Jobsa, Einsteina, Da Vinciho a pár ďalších, ktorý pri ňom posledné 3 roky strávil v blízkosti 2 metrov a videl veci, ktoré ešte verejnosť nevidela, ktorého kniha v slovenskom jazyku vyjde o mesiac. Myšlienku o tom, ako si Elona bude ľudstvo pamätať o 50 až 100 rokov.
What Musk will be most remembered for besides space travel is real-world AI. Not just Optimus the robot, but Optimus the robot and the self-driving car. They're pretty much the same. They're using GPU clusters or dojo chips or whatever it may be to process real world data. We all got, and you did on your podcast, quite excited about large language model, generative, predictive text AI. That's fine, especially if you want to chit-chat with your chat bot. But the holy grail is artificial general intelligence. And the tough part of that is real world AI. And that's where Optimus the robot or full self-drive are, I think, far ahead of anybody else.